I never thought the sound of heels clicking on marble could sound like a countdown to destruction. But in the sunlit courtyard of the Bellini estate, that's exactly what it felt like, the rhythm of doom echoing with every step I took toward the man I had betrayed. The Miami heat shimmered over rows of white roses and luxury cars. Guests in designer suits laughed, champagne flutes glinting in the light. From the outside, it looked like another lavish engagement party hosted by the Bellini crime family. Inside, it was a war disguised in silk and diamonds, and I was the weapon. My name is Isabella Reed, and 3 months ago, I ran away with his enemy, thinking I could escape the world that ruined my family. I thought I could outsmart Luca Bellini, the ruthless Don who ruled Miami's underground like it was his empire. I was wrong, because Luca had found me. He didn't need to raise his voice. He didn't need to threaten. The way his dark eyes locked on me from across the courtyard, calm, cold, burning with quiet fury, told me he already knew everything, that I had helped his rival, Marco Vitale, steal something from him, that I had vanished with Marco, that I had dared to think I could disappear from Luca Bellini's world. The party music faded. Conversations died. I could feel his men tightening formation around me, silent, trained, ready. And Luca walked toward me. A black shirt hugged his broad shoulders, the top button undone as always, his sleeves rolled just enough to reveal veins that looked carved in tension. There was sunlight behind him, but he walked like he brought the shadow with him. When he stopped in front of me, I forgot how to breathe. Run out of places to hide, Bella? His voice was deep, calm, too calm. Or did you come back to finish the job? My throat tightened. I wanted to tell him the truth, that Marco wasn't who I thought he was, that I never meant for things to go that far. But Luca's eyes stripped me of words. Then, before I could speak, the world exploded. Gunfire cracked from the far side of the estate. Guests screamed, diving for cover. Glass shattered as bullets ripped through champagne bottles. Someone shouted, "It's Vitale's men!" Luca's hand clamped around my arm, pulling me behind him as his guards drew their weapons. My heart thundered in my chest. He turned, eyes scanning the chaos. Calm even in the storm. "Get her to the car," he ordered one of his men. "I'm not going with you," I protested, struggling. "I didn't—" He spun to face me, his hand gripping my chin hard enough to still my voice. "You're not in charge of anything anymore, Isabella." Another burst of gunfire. Luca pushed me down behind a stone fountain, shielding me with his body as shards of marble sprayed across the ground. The scent of his cologne, sharp, dark, expensive, mixed with gunpowder and fear. Then silence. A minute later, it was over. His men had taken control, and Vitale's attackers fled. But the look on Luca's face wasn't victory. It was revelation. He turned to me slowly, eyes dark as the ocean before a storm. "They came for you," he said. "He sent them, didn't he?" "I don't know," I whispered. "I left Marco weeks ago." "Liar." His voice dropped lower. "You ran with my enemy. You stole from me. And now you bring a war to my doorstep in broad daylight." His men approached. "Boss, we need to move. Police will be here any second." Luca's gaze didn't leave mine. "Put her in my car," I froze. "Luca, please. I didn't betray you. I was trying to—" He didn't let me finish. His hand wrapped around my wrist, firm, possessive. "You should have stayed gone, Isabella. Because now that I've found you—" He leaned close, his voice a whisper that sent chills through my spine. "You'll wish I hadn't." The ride was silent. The car, a black Maserati with tinted windows, glided down Ocean Drive as palm trees blurred past. I sat beside him, wrists bound by tension rather than rope, but it felt like a prison anyway. "Where are you taking me?" I asked, his jaw flexed. "Somewhere you can't run." The sunlight flickered over his face, catching the faint scar along his jaw, a reminder of the world we both came from. I'd grown up on the edges of that world. My father had worked for the Bellinis once before he was killed for crossing the wrong line. I'd promised myself I'd never fall into that life again, and yet here I was. When we reached his villa, it was blinding. White stone, ocean views, and silence too perfect to be safe. He stepped out first, holding the door open without a word. I hesitated. You can't keep me here. He looked at me, expression unreadable. Watch me. Inside, the house was drenched in daylight, gold reflecting off glass, open hallways lined with art that looked more like trophies than decoration. It was beautiful, but every inch screamed control. He stopped in front of a glass wall overlooking the sea and turned to face me. You want to tell me why you were with Vitale? I swallowed hard. He said he could protect me, that you'd kill me if I stayed. And you believed him? Luca's voice was low, dangerous. The man who's been trying to destroy my family for 5 years? He said you destroyed his first. I snapped. He said you burned his brother alive. Something shifted in his eyes. Pain, maybe, nor memory. You think you know everything because you listened to the wrong man. I stepped closer. Then tell me the truth. He looked away, silent. That silence said everything. Exactly, I whispered. You can't. I turned to leave. But before I reached the door, he said quietly, You're not going anywhere. I froze. What? I told my men you're under my protection. That means no one touches you, no one finds you, and you don't breathe without my permission. That's not protection, I said. That's prison. He stepped closer, his voice a low murmur against the tension in the air. Call it what you want. But after what you did, you don't get to walk free. The silence stretched between us, thick and electric. He was so close I could see the gold flecks in his eyes. For the first time, I saw something beneath the anger. Restraint. Conflict. He was supposed to hate me. So why did it feel like he was fighting something else entirely? I whispered, What are you going to do with me? Luca's gaze swept over me, sharp, controlled. Make you remember who you ran from. He turned and walked away, leaving me standing in a sunlight-soaked room that felt like a gilded cage. Through the glass, the ocean shimmered like freedom I'd never touch again. And I knew, with a sinking heart, that the man I'd tried to escape had no intention of letting me go. The villa was too quiet. Even the ocean outside seemed to hold its breath, as if it knew what kind of man owned this silence. Luca Bellini hadn't spoken to me since the night of the ambush. He'd ordered his guards to keep me in the East Wing. Locked doors, no phone, no contact. The only sound was the echo of waves in my own heartbeat, reminding me that I was alive but not free. I'd been in his world before, long enough to understand that when the dawn went silent, he was thinking. And when he was thinking, someone always paid for it. I just didn't know if that someone was going to be me. By the third day, I'd had enough. I stormed into his office, ignoring the guards who tried to stop me. Luca was sitting behind a glass desk, sunlight pouring over the papers in front of him. He looked like sin carved into a man, sleeves rolled, black shirt unbuttoned at the collar, a faint shadow of stubble on his jaw. His eyes flicked up, slow, deliberate. You think walking in here uninvited is smart, Isabella? I think locking me up like a criminal isn't, I shot back. He leaned back, gaze fixed on me. You ran with my enemy. You brought war to my house. You expect me to treat you like a guest? I expected you to at least ask why I did it. Something in his eyes flickered. Curiosity or irritation, I couldn't tell. Then tell me, he said. I exhaled shakily. Marco said he had evidence about my father's death. He said you were behind it. That's why I went with him. Silence. Then a low, humorless laugh. So you traded one lie for another. Was it a lie? I demanded. My father worked for you. He was loyal until the day he died. Then suddenly he's gone, and everyone whispers it was a Bellini job. Luca stood slowly, the light catching his eyes. Dark brown laced with something dangerous. Your father died protecting me, he said quietly. But if you'd asked instead of running, you might have known that. I froze. What? He stepped closer, his voice tightening. Marco Vitale ambushed us that night. Your father took the bullet meant for me. My heart stuttered. That's not... Marco showed me proof. He showed you forged records. I know, because I've seen them before. The ground shifted beneath me. Every word I'd believed, every reason I'd betrayed Luca. It all cracked like glass under pressure. I turned away, pressing my palm to my mouth. I didn't know. I swear I didn't. He caught my wrist. His touch burned, not with anger this time, but something rawer. You believed the man who murdered your father, he said softly. And you ran from the only one who could have kept you safe. Tears stung my eyes, but I refused to let them fall. Then why didn't you tell me before? Why didn't you say anything when I left? Because you didn't give me a chance. He released me and turned away, his hand sliding through his hair. You disappeared. No goodbye, no explanation, you just vanished. His voice cracked at the edge of control. For a man like Luca, that was a confession. The silence between us changed then. Heavy, but no longer cold. It pulsed with something dangerous. Unspoken. When he finally looked back, the fury in his eyes had been replaced by something I couldn't name. You're staying here until I end this war, he said. Vitale wants you alive. That makes you leverage. So until I decide what to do with him, you don't leave my sight. I frowned. You're making me your prisoner again. He tilted his head. Call it protection this time. That night I couldn't sleep. I stood by the glass wall overlooking the ocean, the moonlight washing over the waves. The door opened softly behind me, and I didn't have to turn to know who it was. Luca's voice came low, roughened by exhaustion. You should rest. I glanced over my shoulder. I could say the same. He stood there, sleeves rolled up, black shirt open at the throat. The man looked like power and sin wrapped in sunlight and shadow. You used to talk too much, he murmured, walking toward me. You used to listen, I said quietly. That made him stop, just a few inches away, his breath mingling with mine. Why did you come back to the estate that day? He asked. Because I found out Marco lied, I admitted. He wanted me to help him steal something from you. Files, money, whatever could hurt you. I refused, so he said if I didn't, he'd expose me. I thought, if I faced you myself, maybe I could explain. He studied me in silence, then reached out, his fingers brushing the side of my face. You think walking into a mafia estate in daylight was safer than staying gone? I think it was brave, I whispered. Luca's hand lingered for a second too long. Then he stepped back, as if realizing he'd crossed a line. I don't forgive easily, Isabella, he said. I'm not asking you to. But even as I said it, I felt it. The shift. The tension that wasn't just fear anymore. It was heat. It was memory. It was the ghost of the man I once trusted, and the woman who'd broken that trust. And I saw it in him too. The way his jaw tightened. The way his eyes lingered when he thought I wasn't looking. The next day, everything changed again. Luca took me to his office, where maps and documents covered the walls, territory lines, bank transfers, coded notes. It was the heart of his empire. He pointed to a marked area on the map. Vitale's shipments come through here. Tomorrow I'm cutting him off. You're going after him, I said quietly. He looked at me. I'm ending this. I hesitated. Then let me help. He almost laughed. Help me? I know how he thinks. I know where he hides his men, how he moves money. I lived with him for weeks. You want revenge? Use me. He stared at me for a long time, like he was trying to decide whether to strangle me or trust me. Then he nodded once. You'll stay close to me. Always. That last word, always, wasn't a threat. It was a promise. By the time the sun rose over Miami the next morning, something fragile had formed between us. He let me into his world again, not as a pawn this time, but as a partner. We worked side by side, decoding files, tracing routes. Every glance, every accidental touch burned like static. When I nearly tripped on the stairs that afternoon, his arm caught me, strong, steady. For a second I was pressed against his chest, his heartbeat fast under my hand. Careful, he said, voice low. I'm fine. But he didn't let go right away. His thumb brushed my wrist before he pulled back, and that's when I realized he was falling. Not completely. Not yet, but the cracks in his armor were showing, in the way his gaze softened when he thought I wasn't watching, in the way he spoke my name like a memory. That night, everything came crashing down. I walked into his study to find his phone buzzing on the desk. A message from an unknown number glowed on the screen. Tomorrow at noon. Vitale wants her alive. Trade for peace. I froze. My blood went cold. Luca walked in just as I set the phone down. What are you doing? Nothing, I said too quickly. He looked at the screen, then back at me, eyes narrowing. Did you know about this? No. I swear I didn't. But his expression had already changed. Fury. Betrayal. The same look from that courtyard all over again. Get out, he said, voice low and dangerous. Luca, get out. The guards came instantly. His command was quiet but final. As they led me away, I turned back, tears blurring my vision. He stood there, still as stone, staring at the phone like it had just confirmed his worst fear. And in that moment, I realized something terrifying. This time, I hadn't betrayed him, but he was about to destroy himself believing that I had. The sun rose over the ocean, blindingly bright, cruel in how it made everything look peaceful when I knew it wasn't. I'd spent the night locked in one of Luca's guest rooms, not the gilded one he'd first kept me in, but smaller, colder, meant for people who were temporary. Outside, the sea glittered like freedom. Inside, I felt like I was drowning. I didn't blame him for doubting me, not after what I'd done before, but the way he'd looked at me last night, as if every ounce of trust we'd rebuilt had turned to ash. That was what hurt most. Because somewhere between revenge and ruin, I'd fallen in love with the man I once feared. By noon, I heard footsteps outside. The lock clicked. Luca stood there, expression unreadable, a black shirt clinging to him like second skin. The sunlight poured in from behind, outlining the hard lines of a man who'd lived too long in darkness. Get dressed, he said. We're leaving. Where? I asked, cautious. He didn't answer, just turned and walked away. 10 minutes later, I was in his car, wrists unbound, heart pounding. The engine roared down the coastal road toward the Miami docks, where the Bellini Empire began and ended. The closer we got, the heavier the air became. Armed men lined the perimeter. Luca's second-in-command, Matteo, met us at the gates. He's here, Matteo said. Vitale brought backup. Luca's hand tightened on the wheel. Good, I turned to him. You can't do this. He glanced at me once, cold and calm. I'm not asking for permission. Luca, please. He'll kill you. He parked abruptly and leaned closer, his voice low but burning. You think I care about dying? He took everything from me, my men, my peace. You, the words hit harder than a bullet, I whispered. Then let me fix it. But he was already out of the car, walking toward the warehouse like a man walking toward destiny. Inside, the light cut through dusty windows, slicing across crates and shadows. Marco Vitale stood waiting. Sharp suit, slicked hair, the same smirk that once fooled me into thinking he was salvation. And beside him, 2 of his men holding guns. Bellini, Marco said. You came alone. I didn't think you had it in you. Luca's voice was quiet steel. You brought this war to my house. You used her to get to me. Today it ends, Marco chuckled. Ends? No, Luca, it begins. You see, I still have what you want. His gaze shifted to me. And what you hate, Luca's jaw flexed. Let her go. Marco tilted his head. And what will you give me? Peace? Power? Your territory? Luca stepped closer. You don't get to name terms. Then maybe I take her instead, Marco said, raising his gun toward me. It happened fast. Luca moved first, pulling his weapon, but before either could fire, I shouted, Stop! Both men froze. Marco lied to me, I said, voice trembling. He used me because of my father, because he knew I'd believe him. But I know the truth now, Marco smirked. You think he's innocent? He killed your father, Isabella. You're just too blind to see it. Luca's voice cut through the air. You shot him yourself, Vitale, Marco laughed. Prove it. I already did, Luca said, tossing a small drive onto the floor. Security footage from that night. You and your men, ambushing us in Little Havana. My men recovered it from one of your trucks this morning. The color drained from Marco's face. I stared between them, my heart in my throat. You knew all along? I whispered to Luca. He looked at me, not with triumph, but with something close to sorrow. I wanted you to hear it from him. Marco lunged. A shot rang out. The echo filled the room. For a split second, I didn't know who'd been hit, until I saw Marco stumble backward, clutching his shoulder, his gun clattering to the floor. Luca stood between us, chest heaving, eyes locked on his fallen rival. It's over, he said. Marco sneered through the pain. You'll never outrun this life, Bellini. You'll die in it. Maybe, Luca said. But not today. He turned to me. Come on. We walked out together, the daylight swallowing the darkness behind us. By the time we reached the car, sirens wailed faintly in the distance. Matteo's men were already moving in to clean up the aftermath. Luca opened the passenger door for me, but I didn't move. You could have let me go, I said softly. You could have let him take me. He looked at me like I'd said something unthinkable. And lose you again? My throat tightened. You don't even trust me anymore. He exhaled, stepping closer until his shadow fell over me. I didn't know what to believe. I wanted to hate you. God, I tried. But every time I looked at you, I saw the woman who risked her life to come back to me. I blinked back tears. Then why lock me away? Because keeping you close was the only way I knew how to protect you. His honesty cut deeper than anger ever could. I looked at him, the man who'd once been my enemy, the man who'd saved me more times than I deserved, and I realized forgiveness wasn't something he owed me. It was something I had to give freely to both of us. I reached for his hand. Then stop fighting what's already over. He hesitated, eyes burning into mine, searching for lies. But there weren't any left between us. Finally he said, Get in the car, Isabella. Why? His lips curved just slightly. Because I'm taking you home. We didn't speak for a long time on the drive back. The tension that had once felt suffocating now felt fragile, ready to break into something else entirely. When we reached the villa, the guards were gone. The world outside was quiet again, sunlit, alive, as if the city itself had exhaled after holding its breath for too long. Luca parked near the edge of the terrace and got out first. I followed him, the sea breeze lifting my hair. He leaned on the railing, staring out at the horizon. Do you ever think about what it's like to start over? He asked. All the time, I said. He turned to face me. Then let's do it, I frowned. What do you mean? I'm done with this life, Isabella. With revenge. With blood. I kept telling myself I couldn't walk away, that it was in my DNA. But maybe I was just waiting for a reason to. My heart raced. And you think I'm that reason? He didn't hesitate. I know you are. Tears finally escaped, warm against the sunlight. You'll never be free if you stay here. Then I'll go where you go, he said simply. There was no grand gesture, no perfect speech. Just truth, raw and quiet. He took my hand, pulling me close until I could feel his heartbeat against mine. The same man who had once sworn to make me pay was now the one asking me to stay. I whispered, After everything I did, you still forgive me? His thumb brushed a tear from my cheek. No, he said softly. I love you. Forgiveness came before that. The words broke something open inside me. The guilt, the fear, the endless weight of what we'd both survived. I leaned into him, and for the first time it wasn't about surrender or control. It was peace. The ocean roared below us, the same waves that had carried all our pain and mistakes. And as sunlight wrapped around us, I knew this was what redemption looked like. Not perfect, not pure, but real. We were two broken people who had finally stopped running. A year later, Luca sold everything, the estates, the docks, the business. We moved north, far from Miami's heat, to a quiet town where no one knew our names. He still wore his black shirts, but the top button was finally undone for good reason: peace. And me? I learned that love born in fire doesn't always burn. Sometimes it glows. If you felt the storm and the softness in "She fled with his enemy," The Mafia Don found her and forgave nothing. Like this story, comment your favorite line, subscribe for more dark, emotional mafia love stories, and share it with someone who believes love can rise even from revenge.